thank you, yeah, thank you. Hello, name's Colin the Bloody Gain. It's about my 12th or 11th video. Now, what I want to have a look today at, we're working on, of course, making New Zealand the greatest nation of all time. Greatest nation this world has ever known, and we can pass them on to the rest of the world. And we're looking at the Olympics still. So my friend has written to the Olympic Committee twice, and on my behalf twice, and we haven't as yet got a reply. So we're just waiting to, we're just waiting now to get a reply back. Because we have to change the medal system, so you need to see my first two videos on Instagram. You'll find them, Colin, on the Olympics. Now, we're looking at today something very important. I tried to think yesterday to squash this all into the one video, but I don't think I will now. Today I'm working on trying to take my time, and if I don't finish this video today, then I can just put another video on, and tomorrow or today another video. Now, you see, it's like this. As I mentioned to you before, there's two leader-ups here to what I'm to say. What I've said before is Michael Joseph Savage. He was, as far as I know, he was a key man in the strike. They had, I think it was in 1918, 1920, a big dock strike, was it? And the police or the military were on horses trying to sort the problem out. And this guy, Michael Joseph Savage, was a key pin behind it. So probably because he was a fast talker or whatever, and a man of ability in that to get things going, he eventually was made Prime Minister of New Zealand. And that was in the Depression in the 30s. Soup kitchens abounded, factories closed, no money about. So Michael Joseph Savage increased the money supply, and when the owners of factories saw there was money around, they opened up their factories, and I believe indeed come 1938 there was no unemployment at all in New Zealand. So I wanted to recap on that one. And one I wanted to recap on was that if you're going to give very high wages, the higher wages you go, and it's very high, it's 500 smackers an hour, you're going to have to address three things in particular, and another one come to mind was cigarettes, liquor, and sweet things. The other three things have to be addressed. Don't want to give time to address why. You can sort it out yourself. I don't want to spend too much time. And there's another one come to mind is that even now, for a while, some young people who are working on construction works were getting higher wages. Even a few years ago, they were getting around about 24 smackers an hour or so. So what they did is they didn't work some of the time because of that, and they put in a sickie or whatever, and didn't work. So if that's going to happen too much because they get 500 smackers an hour, we might have to say to them, well, to get then this amount of money, you have to work 40 hours. Because it's work that runs the country, you see, not money, and it just depends how things go, how things work out. We'll examine it. And I also mentioned that I must become the Prime Minister of New Zealand, and so if you can help me to be that, and we can get things moving. Now we're looking now in this video on the money supply. Now take for example a man who say was printing money in New Zealand for the government, so he knew the ropes how to print money and that. So he decided to help the country out by printing billions and billions of dollars on US and New Zealand dollars on the presses. Now, it wouldn't work because he would soon be found out. But just say, for example, he wasn't found out. We're looking at an illustration here. Or perhaps better still, the Holy Spirit spoke and said, I want you to create a lot of money and put it into circulation. I'll tell you what to do, and I will protect you and I will guide you. Have no worries. So when he is in control, well, nobody can touch him. If he wants to do something, he'll do it. Excuse me. Now, so let's have a look at a few things, what he's got in mind. He's got a pop-up toaster, but it's not working well. It's what shall I say? It can go, but it won't stay down. So he needs something to jam in at the bottom of it to hold it down. Now, despite all these billions of dollars that he's creating, or say it was the Holy Spirit spoke, or either way, it doesn't matter because we're just giving an illustration here. And so, as a result of this, he didn't buy another pop-up toaster because despite all the billions he's got, because it wasn't for self-gain. The purpose is to bring New Zealand on top and help make New Zealand the greatest nation of all time, which is what we're working on. Now, firstly, too, I'd like to, before I go further, I'd like to thank the people who screen my videos. I think they screen them to check them out, and so I'd like to thank them for pushing my videos through and for giving me half an hour, which is not likely what they perhaps give. But even they, if I asked them and I said, well, what will you give me in that, they might say, well, we don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Because we have to hear your video first before we know. And we don't know until we hear your video. So even they won't know until they hear my videos. And they've heard them and they've apparently been satisfied in helping me make New Zealand the greatest nation of all time. And and also I'd like to thank a friend of mine who's given me a room here that I'm in here at the moment. He's been very helpful to me. He suggests, would you like to put another video on? And when this room's available, he gives me this room, and no need for him to do so, but he has. And he's also helping me on the this electronic side, because I don't know anything about smartphones or this modern technology. I've got as far as a cell phone, and I just press the green button, so I've got that far. But I don't even know, I can't even clear a text still. I'm still struggling how to clear a text. I've been told in that, but I just have to try again and write it down again. I'm still struggling to clear it. Sometimes I've cleared a text. If I get the text straight away, then I can somehow just press two buttons, the white button and the center button, and amazingly the messages come up. So sometimes I have managed to clear his text, but I still don't know how to properly. So my friend is helping me, so I'd like to thank him for this, for giving me this room, etc., and his expertise in helping me. Now, it was moving on into this, I've already been 10 minutes, I think, now, and yes, so time flies. So I can put on another video if I don't manage to finish it. Now, we're looking now at them creating billions and billions of dollars. So the first thing he looks at is our water availability on farms. So he goes to all the farmers and such like, and then he prints, of course, these billions of dollars, and he arranges for water tanks, to be built up in the air, but we don't want them built sideways along the ground because it takes too much room. We need to build up in the air now for flats and things like this. And so we build these massive tanks. We don't want just one massive tank, because if it ruptured or an earthquake came, and we want them to be earthquake proof as well, incidentally. But if something happened to this big massive tank and could spill and could, if it ruptured, if something happened, but we have some smaller ones to make up for a big one, a massive one. So what we do is we have sheets of corrugated iron sloping down to the opening of the reservoirs, and as the rain hits the corrugated iron, it pours down into the reservoirs. And then we have a churning motion to keep the water moving slowly at a reasonable pace, that it won't go stale, and keep the water freshy. And we also have will solve the problem of mildew or moss embedding on the walls of the massive reservoirs. Excuse me. And so and also to stop mosquitoes from breeding as well. And then, of course, a sprinkler system down below, and it's carted to various farm paddocks and away to protected from the cows treading on the sprinkler system, and so he can just turn the sprinkler on whenever he likes. And there's plenty of water there. There's so much water that even in drought there'll still be plenty of water, because when these sheets of corrugated iron are out and that rain hits them, the water will just pour into the reservoirs. And massive things. They'll have to be about 200 or 300 feet high or whatever. Never had a hope of getting up them on a ladder. It's like in Wairau, my hometown, they have settling tanks, and I think for the water supply, and those are massive tanks too. I think I don't know if I might have seen them up there. I should have known them from Wairau, but my hometown, and between Napier and Gisborne, a little town called Wairau, and they have these settling tanks there. I think they're massive things too. I think I don't know how they get up on them. I've probably seen them once, yeah, but didn't maybe take too much notice of them as children, teenagers and what. But anyway, so there's our water supply solved for the farmers. Now, the next one he goes to is shelters on our paddocks. Now, these poor cattle and sheep and cows, they feel the cold, because I was on a farm once, and a dairy farm, and I looked outside, and there was a paddock outside, and the cows were huddled together to keep warm, naturally. It was a cold day. It was one of these unseasonal days. We haven't got time to go into that side of it. And what happened was, it was a cold day, but it wasn't as cold as what it can get. And these poor cows were huddled around, because it's one of these paddocks. There's so many of them. They're just a paddock. There's no what should I say? There's no protection, a little shelter for them to get out of the blazing hot sun and the freezing cold winds and the driving rain and that. How would we get on if we stood up there all night with the poor cows, the poor sheep, the lambs, sheep losing their lamb because of the cold down the South Island and that? It's disgraceful. We should have shelters for the poor things. Supposing they could talk, And they said to us one day, they said, "Why are you not helping us?" The cows, they could talk and say, "We give you milk every day. We give you milk. Why don't you help us? We're not asking for anything spectacular. All we want is just a shelter over us. And to go into the driving rain and that blazing sun. Why don't you help us? That's all we ask for. There's something simple. You don't care about us. We give you milk every day. We give you milk, and you don't even help us. You let us suffer in the blazing sun. You won't even help us. All we need is just some little shelter to help us. You're not fair on us. You're not helping us." And so the crowd start crying, making me nearly cry actually too. I'm quite an emotional kind of a person, so don't be surprised if I start crying myself. So you see, did I mention to you that I was on this? I mentioned to you I was on this dairy farm. That's right, and the cattle. That's right. They were huddled together. So the poor things, they feel the cold, and also if our cows were happy, they could probably produce more milk, because if negative things apply in the body, the human, it won't function so well. But if it's on positive emotions like love and joy and peace, but if it's on emotions of hate and other negative emotions, it doesn't function well, and it can get diseases and that. Like one woman in the United States, she had cancer, so she went to faith healers and she didn't get healed of her cancer. So someone said to her one day, is there anyone you've got a grudge against? And she says, yes, there's somebody I hate so much. It makes me sick all over just to think of that person. So her husband heard about it somehow, and from memory of the article, her husband made her kneel all night until she finally consented to forgive the one that she hated. And from that moment, her cancer began to recover and she got healed of cancer. The hate caused the cancer. The hate was feeding the cancer. But when the cancer had nothing to feed on, it died a natural death. Because there's different forms of cancer. Of course, there's another cause of cancer is viruses. Viruses can be one cause of cancer. But viruses and hate are all negative emotion, or not emotion, or haters, but I guess virus is a negative thing, it's not something nice. And so as humans can get upset and get diseases and things from what shall I say, from negative emotions and the body not running right, so can cows too if they're upset with the heat and the cold. And maybe the quality of the milk might not be so good because it's tension and stress with the cows, and they might not be able to produce as much milk as what they like. But if they're nice and satisfied, they've got lovely shelters to go to, and facing the north, and they just get out of the freezing cold and the heat, the blazing heat, because you take a day that say 28 Celsius, that's taken in the shade. What must it be like in the blazing sun? It must be about 36 or something in the sun. In fact, just at the moment, we're in a position where the forecast, this is what, the 24th of January 2020, and the forecast is that down the South Island, they're going to have heat as about some even as high as 35 Celsius. That's in the shade. So what must it be like in the sun? 45 or 43 or something in the blazing sun. And those poor animals, they have to put up with it, and we don't help them with shelters. So our friend is printing the billions. He gets Fletcher Construction, whoever these building contractors are, and they employ people, and he gets people working, you see. So, and so they build these shelters for sheep and the cows, and they're so happy. It's just as though the cows just jumped up and down for joy and thank you, raised their paw, one of their legs to shake hands, and thank you. They're trying to say thank you for this lovely shelter that you've given to us. We're so happy. If they could talk, you see, that's what they would say, and they'd be so happy to help for us helping them by injecting money supply. We're looking now at counterfeit money at the moment. So these sheds were built all around New Zealand, and the cows are so happy, and the sheep and that are happy. They have their lambs, and so that when they can have their lambs, they go into the shelters, and no lamb losses hardly come from, and New Zealand start to get a rich country. Now the next one is how much time have I got here? 21 minutes. Time flies. Yes, I don't think I'll finish this video. I could go to one more, which is organic pasture. I might have touched on this, is that in the United States they had cows feeding on organic pasture, and so they tried to give them diseases just in experiments. And they couldn't give them Bang's disease, they couldn't give them foot and mouth. They tried other diseases. I haven't got the book with me at the moment to show it to you. And so the fact that New Zealand has just fairly recently had an outbreak of some disease and they were killing cattle or something shows that our pasture is not organic. So the one that can help us to do that is Debbie Alston. She's a guru on all this. She's on Southern Star Radio. I listen to that. I got my radio fixed onto Star Radio, and she comes on only about 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day. Well, not every day. It's Friday and Saturday, I think she comes on. 5 or 10 minutes, not long they give her. But she's an absolute guru. She just knows everything. And so she can put us right in how to... She even knows the soil, the number, the soil should be 6 or something, I don't know, something 6 or 2 or something she knows what, or should be 2 before. I've forgotten, it's best to let her tell you I've forgotten. But she just knows the ratio of something, yeah, and all this, she's just a guru. They call her a guru on Star, as simple as that. So Debbie Olsen, she can put us right on how to get them organic. And then from there, we try to do the same, give them foot and mouth and that, but no, nothing takes. So we invite Tokyo, Berlin, Paris, Moscow, London, Shanghai, whatever, maybe Canberra is it, and in India, Delhi perhaps, I don't know, and other around the world, and New York and Los Angeles, take 2 from the States, and Ottawa, where's that, up in Canada, is it somewhere, and Brazil somewhere, I don't know, capital of Brazil. And anyway, they bring their expertise over and they test New Zealand. They're doing the same thing, try to give New Zealand cattle and New Zealand cows these diseases in experiments. So to make sure, we say take it back to your own country, analyse it there to make sure that it's correct, that you've got the right diagnosis. And so they all come to the same conclusion, that New Zealand milk is the best milk in the world. So once this is known, that the results come back from Tokyo and from Berlin and Paris and these places, then Fontana, somebody buys the farmer's milk, it might be Fontana, something like that. So they give New Zealand farmers a higher price They charge a higher price around the world, and in fact there's even perhaps been known to be a fight on in the United States between two women because it was the last bottle of New Zealand milk. And so the managers called and he apologised and said, "I'm sorry, madams, but I'm sorry about this, but the New Zealand milk will be in about 3 days, but in the meantime, could we give you half each? And it'll be on the house. There'll be no charge for this last bottle here. I'm very, very sorry about this, ladies, but can we give you half a container each? And I'm sorry, very, very sorry. It's in high demand, New Zealand milk. And but as I say, we'll be here shortly, hopefully in the next 3 days. And we're very, very sorry about this. And it's just that New Zealand milk is so demand around the world, they're prepared to pay higher prices for even a fight over it, New Zealand milk. And so this can start to increase our export earnings. And then if I've got time here, it's 23 minutes, I might have time for one more important one, is flats. Now with all this billions of dollars he's printing off the presses for us, just for the sake of the illustration, especially he's giving $500 an hour, the police or so would certainly be on to him and say, "Excuse me, sir, where did you get all this money from to give? You're giving people 500 smackers an hour, sir. Where did you get all this money from?" But we're just using an example, you see, and this is why the Holy Spirit would be a better one, because if he wants to do something, nobody can do anything bloody about it, bloody at all. So anyway, we build these high-rising flats up in the air, 45, 50 stories, 55 stories high. Each one has plenty of room in it, lovely large lounges, lovely large bedrooms, say 6 bedrooms, lovely wide hallways and wide, huge kitchen and plenty of room and just houses within each other. You have got that in Lambton Quay, not Lambton Quay, and we've got that, of course, in flats in Wellington and around New Zealand and that. We've got high-rising flats and that, but the smaller ones, what I'm looking for, each one, of course, has to be earthquake-proof completely, and we say to them, don't worry about costs involved. Money is no object, just the best material you can put, best earthquake-proof. Take your time in building them, make sure they're strong. Money is no object, because he's printing money off the presses, you see. And so all these, tens of thousands of people move into these high-rising flats that are done by this counterfeit money. Now think of all the employment that'll cause. People are employed, they employ chefs, plenty of money to pay them, billions of dollars, you see, pay chefs to bring the food out. They give them free taxis, the workers they want to go into town. They have camper vans on the site for people who want to stay overnight or keep on working here and don't want to, or they can go into town if they want to in a free cab and that, but they camper vans and the chefs bring the food and lovely food and we ask them to have a balance of food, not just a lot of potato and peas, but also say some swede and some parsnip and other ones like that that's not usually used much, and add that on to them, give them a good lovely meal, and if they can't eat it all, hold on to it, don't throw it away. We don't want any waste. Keep it for later on. You want to get hungry later on, hold on to it. And a pudding, whatever they like, fruit or whatever, they can have a choice, of course. We can pay workers, you see, once you get this done, and you pay workers and you get things moving. Now just supposing it was all done, and then a few years later they found out that it was all done by counterfeit money, and billions of dollars are now coming into the economy. Farmers are just getting so much milk from the cows. They've got shelters now for the cows. You see, the cows are so happy. They've got shelters and they can come out of the blazing sun and that. Poor darling things. Poor darling things in the blazing. What's it going to be like in the South Island now? 35 degrees Celsius in the shade the next day or two or something. How are those poor animals going to be retired? How are those poor animals going to survive? Another 10 degrees on top of that for the sun is taken in the shade. So we've got to look after our cows. As I say, if our cows could talk to us, the cows could say, look, we give you milk every day. Every day we give you milk. You won't even help us. You won't give us shelters. So it's best out sobbing away and making me cry, actually. And so plenty of work, you see, plenty of work. And then wouldn't it be stupid for them to pull down all these buildings? Say you've got 3 months to get out of these high-rise buildings, all coming down, more 9/11s. So you want 9/11s, come to New Zealand, or you're going to watch some 9/11s here. 45, 55 stories all coming down, built with counterfeit money. All the lovely water that they got, all those tanks have to be pulled down, and the shelters for sheep all have to go, all built with counterfeit money. See how stupid it is. So instead of being counterfeit money, it could be done by the government. So you see, by putting money into the economy, you create work. So this is why the Labour Party at the moment, what's time have I got? Oh, shit, what's the time? Oh, it's 31 minutes. Oh, I must go. I'm sorry, I'm lucky to get this time. So I'll catch up with you on another video. So sorry, I hope they give me this little bit extra here. I'm lucky to get half an hour. So thank you. I'll close now. I'll put on another video. Thank you. Goodbye for now. Bye.